My name is Lex, and this week on Spidey Signals, me and my co host Alex discuss Universal Studios' The Amazing Adventures of Spider Man, the No Way Home trailer, and what's next for the final stretch of the season. Get ready for the most dangerous night of your life, because it's time for Spidey Signals. Welcome back to Spidey Signals, the podcast where two guys with the same name talk about Spider-Man. I'm Lex.
And I'm Alex.
Last week, we watched six little sampler episodes of Toei's Spider-Man with Brian Alexander, and that was a lot of fun. That was a great show.
It really was. I really love it when it's something all three of us can really like, or even both of us can dissect and get into and talk about all the moving parts of. But like, I especially enjoyed the aspects of you and Brian, especially being, you know, I'm not super versed in the terminology. I'm just gonna say common writer-esque shows, that genre. Uh,
Yeah, Toku. Yeah.
um Toku. I know you got nuts about it, so it was nice to be I'm nuts about a lot of weird little hyperfixaty things, so it's nice to, I don't know, breathe in other people's stink from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's Toku is a thing that I've enjoyed for many, many years, and it's fun to actually talk about it on this podcast, especially because the Toei Spider-Man show is one of the big ones that gets talked about a lot. Uh,
Absolutely.
we're gonna have a pretty short episode. The thing we're talking about is literally only 5 minutes long. But before we get into that, we do have something that we want to talk about beforehand, which is we're recording this on the 17th of November. It won't come out till Friday. But yesterday, the new No Way Home trailer came out.
Yeah, I kind of planned my whole day around it. I had an evening shift at my job, and I texted my manager ahead of time saying, "Hey, look, I'm gonna do my job, but at 8:30 there's a Spider-Man trailer, and I'm going into a dark room where there's no one else to watch it on my phone. You're gonna have to deal with this fact."
I was in a big group chat with a friend of the show, Jackson. We were all playing Halo Infinite together. And I was literally just watching the clock the whole time we were playing it. And then as soon as it hit 7:30, Jackson and I left, went to a different call, and just watched it together.
It's
Uh,
great.
it was whew, there's a lot to talk about.
My
Uh,
manager is a pal and gave me the time to, and actually listens to the podcast once in a while. So thank you,
oh,
Madison.
let's go, Madison, friend of the show, Madison. So I guess Alex, what are your sort of general thoughts on this trailer that came out?
I- I'm really happy with most of the trailer. I'm happy that they're leaning into giving us more. I'm gonna just come out and say that I'm really glad Toby and Andrew weren't in the trailer.
Yes,
It's
yes.
it's pretty much like you have to be really naive to not think that there's even at the bare minimum we're talking post credits, but there's a very much more than zero chance that the plot is going to hinge around Toby and Andrew being part of this somehow. I'm really glad they didn't blow the load here, and we're building up to it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
really
it's one of those
happy.
things. It's like a lot of the end game stuff where you gotta save it for the trailer.
Yeah, it just makes commercial sense
Save
too,
it
even
save it for
from
the
a
movie. I
business
mean,
perspective. Um, I was happy to see a glimpse of the lizard for real. Happy to see Sandman. Super happy to see Electro redesigned with like a nod to the classic mask and the Tims of Power. Um, Thrilled with that. But honestly, the biggest takeaway for me and most other people was, you know, Molina and Defoe back in full force. We saw the
oh
Goblin costume. We haven't seen an unmasked Defoe yet. That's what I'm really. Don't get me wrong. I'm a defender of Sleepy Toby. I do like his performance in parts, but what I'm really thrilled about them pulling Raimi ideas from is mostly wrapped up in Molina and Defoe, especially. If you listened to this before, you know that that's probably hands down my biggest, most favorite villain is Defoe's Goblin.
oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I love Defoe's Goblin.
This
Uh,
is long awaited. This is gonna be great.
it's yeah. As for me. It looks. Not only does it look like it's gonna, obviously, now on Twitter, everyone's coming out of the woodwork for their hot Spider-Man takes, most of which are shit.
Of course.
The only people that are allowed to have opinions about Spider-Man are people who have podcasts about Spider-Man. So
I
us,
want podcasts of Spider-Man.
only us.
The
But
two most valid people named Alexander on the internet.
exactly. But I really really liked what I saw. Jackson, who also watched it with me, we both really really enjoyed it. I like that they're doing what I wanted them to do. Uh, when we, if you remember way back at the finale of last season, where we talked about our sort of what we wanted from this movie, they're going for that darker feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously, like I said, it's the end of Peter's high school days, so it's a lot darker. We're gonna get into the heavier stuff. There's all kinds of rumors and things about stuff, but it looks like it's gonna be, kind of a heavier movie. Peter looks like he's gonna get fucked up. But yeah, everybody looks really, really great. Jamie Foxx what they've done with the redesign for Electro is wow, it's fantastic.
It's really great.
I can't wait for that art book to come out. Like I've said
Oh, yeah.
before on this podcast, I have the art books for Homecoming and Far From Home, so I can't wait to add the No Way Home one to my collection.
One other small thing I'm looking forward to about it is you get a lot of hot takes about the whole like Iron Man's shadow over the whole character of Spider-Man in this MCU one. Far From Home was really about getting away from that, but this is the most removed from that, so I'm really
Yeah,
happy
like
for it.
this has nothing to do with any of that. So
Yeah,
if I see anyone making that argument about this, I'm gonna kill them.
yeah, that foothold no longer exists for that argument. So
As
let's go.
It was tenuous at best, even in Far From Home.
Hmm.
But now it's like you can't even make that argument.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I really really can't wait to dive into that movie. It's only a month away from when we're recording.
Oh yeah.
A month away. But we're gonna have to wait a week after it comes out. Will you when our episode comes out, because the day it comes out in theaters is when our Master Planner Saga episode comes out.
Hmm.
It's all
I'll
perfectly planned,
probably
unless they delay the movie. Then I'll be upset.
I'll probably, if everything goes according to plan, I'll probably have seen the movie twice at the very least by the time of
Yes.
recording, just to have everything as concise as possible.
The real problem I've been thinking about is how the fuck am I going to go to a movie theater and take notes? Is that going to be a thing? Are they going to put it on Disney Plus? I don't think that they are.
I distinctly remember, this is much more passion and ambition than me, but there was like some internet story I read about some girl that did like a screen accurate X-Wing costume in 1977 by
Oh yeah,
taking fucking legal pads and shit into a showing of Star Wars and just sketching it for the like 30 minutes of the movie those costumes are on the screen. So I mean, between that being 50 years ago and shit, I think I'll manage somehow. I'll at worst cobble together some internet synopses from cam rips or something. We'll make it work.
we'll figure it out. But yeah, now that we've gotten that little brief discussion about this new trailer out of the way, there's a lot more stuff we could speculate on, but we're gonna save that for when we actually talk about the actual movie. I completely forgot to talk about the animated TV show that got announced too for
Oh
Spider-Man.
yeah, oh my god, yeah.
So, if you don't know, along with the No Way Home trailer that just came out, a couple days before that, on whatever Disney Plus Day, whatever it was called, they announced that they're making an animated TV show that takes place in the MCU called Spider-Man Freshman Year. It's basically a prequel show. It's basically just doing the origin, but as an animated TV show, like prequel for the movies.
Which is like the only option they have in terms of origin story at this point, because I don't think anybody wants to de-age Tom Holland.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the origin is a very damned if you do, damned if you don't thing.
Hmm.
Because as we said before, we're totally fine. At least Alex and I enjoy that they kind of skipped the intro, the origin, because you already know what it is. Blah 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 blah. But of course, there's also that classic contingency of computer whiners, who are like, "Why didn't you show Uncle Ben?"
I have to see Uncle Ben get
I
splattered
have
with a
to.
357 or I have no investment.
I gotta see it. But it's a way for them to be pleased without having to interrupt one of the stories in the movie. I'm sure they'll make. I'm sure. I still feel like they're gonna make an actual reference to Uncle Ben in No Way Home. They have
Hmm.
to, especially if the rumors are true and Toby and Andrew are actually in the movie. They've gotta at least mention it.
Hmm. For sure.
So it'll be a way to show the origin without having to clog it up in the actual movies.
The one
But
image
people will
we've
still
seen
find a way to complain about it.
the one image we've seen so far when it was released indicates that it'll have like a Ditko looking kind of
Yeah.
style to it. Like a very clearly a little like Ditko cartoon Tom Holland, big circular glasses. Um, One thing I only thought about
Sweater
like
sweater vest.
days after the fact, I was literally carrying in groceries with my partner, and I turned to them and I said, like unprompted, I just realized in freshman year they're going to be using the pajama suit the whole time.
Oh
They
yeah.
have they have like
They
it's
have
something that
to.
struck me after the fact, and that honestly made me even happier
That's good.
because I
That's
love
gonna
the
be fun.
pajama suit.
It's a fun suit because the actual regular Spider-Man costume doesn't get announced until fucking announced. Doesn't show up until Civil War. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
As I've said before, I always like as much as I am fine with them skipping the intro, the origin. I always like to see it. So it'll be fun.
yeah, it's a good compromise. If they had to do something, this is the way to do it.
All right. But this week we're talking about something completely different. We're talking about a theme park ride. Specifically, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. This ride first opened on May 28th, 1999 in Universal Studios Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. It's also been released in Universal Studio Japan in their New York City section. I don't actually have a date for that one. I think it's in like 2004, I want to say.
It's a common thing you run into in New York is Spider-Man.
Exactly. This ride was designed by Universal Creative, so their in-house staff. The ride vehicles seat 12 people, 3 rows with 4 riders in each row. There's a 40-inch height requirement. You got to be 40 inches tall. The ride itself is 5 minutes long. It's a 3D ride. You put on your little funny little 3D glasses and you ride the ride. As for our cast, we've got Chris Edgerly as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, and also J. Jonah Jameson pulling double duty. I
The
don't think
duality of man.
that's straight up. I don't think that's ever been done before, where somebody played both Jameson and Spider-Man, other than like fan projects, probably.
Spider-Man 2.1. Briefly, J.K. Simmons puts on the
I guess
Spider-Man
you're right.
suit.
Yeah, I guess you're right. J.K. Simmons. We've got Roger Bumpass as Dr. Otto Octavius / Doc Ock. Bill Fagerbaki as Morris Bench / Hydro Man. Pat Fraley as Ned Leeds, our old friend Ned Leeds / Hobgoblin. Candy Milo as Donna Diego / Scream. And Jim Wise as Max Dillon / Electro. Alex, do you have any sort of personal experiences with this theme park ride?
Matter of fact, I do. I have been to Universal Studios a couple times. I live in North Central Florida, so Orlando is only about 2.5 hours from me. I have friends that live there that are proper noun theme park people, and I occasionally go and do stuff with them. Once in a blue moon, I think maybe every other year or so. I'm not really a theme park guy, and I haven't been since COVID, so that's going to be something to try someday, I guess. But in high school, we regularly took like a yearly band trip to Universal. I was in jazz band for 3 years, and I rode this ride just about every year we went. I don't have any like majorly distinct memories of it outside of one year where they made the weird guy be in our group. For context, this guy would regularly watch like hentai on his phone in band class. Uh,
What the fuck?
Total weirdo. He made national news a few years ago for trying to assault a girl and saying the devil made him do it in his body. Uh, that guy rode the ride with us, and he thought that it was like an actual like live moving coaster. Like the effects worked on him, is what I'm trying to say. There's a simulated 400-foot drop in this ride, and he was convinced that like it was real. That's
Incredible.
the main takeaway I had from this ride was like Jesus Christ, it worked on name redacted. Uh, but it's a fun ride. I enjoyed it. There's a great little shop at the end if you're a consumer dork like me who likes things with Spider-Man on them. I'll get into more of that when we get to our trivia segment. But I have ridden this ride a few times, and nothing but positive memories and feelings about it. It's a fun little I do like dark rides, admittedly. I'm not crazy about like
I'm a dark ride
3D mixed
enjoyer.
element stuff. Universal loves to do those kind of things. My partner
Yeah.
is a Harry Potter person, and we've been to that park once, I want to say. They have a similar ride with like 3D elements and stuff that intermingle in the dark segments, and I'm just not nuts about those kind of rides, I think.
Yeah,
But I do
I
like
think
this one.
I think the reason that they do all those 3D elements and stuff is just because it's cheaper than building the actual physical parts.
Oh, much cheaper.
It's just easier to make little CGI movies.
Which I should note, Universal's never revealed how much specifically and exactly they spent on this, but it's been
Yes, that's
speculated that it was in the neighborhood of 150 million.
yeah for Universal, who was a notoriously before Harry Potter, not known for being a very bendy company in their theme park division. It's they pulled out all the stops for this.
Yeah, that's a Hollywood movie budget they spent on this, and it keeps making them money. So hey, if it works, it works.
It works. It works. As for me, I've been on this ride a lot. Ever since I've been a kid, I've gone on a lot of vacations to Disneyland and Disney World down in Orlando, and uh, also occasionally every once for one day in that sort of trip, we usually take a little brief aside to Universal, and I always try to ride the Spider-Man ride because it's great. I think the most recent time I went was on a vacation back in 2019,
Oh
right before
wow.
the pandemic, back in March of 2019. I remember riding the ride, of course, but now I feel like as I've gotten older, it's a lot easier for me to get like sick on rides. So I was a
Oh
little bit
sure.
kind of whoa at the end because they spin you around a lot on the ride.
Yeah, I do remember being pretty disoriented after getting off of it myself.
But it's yeah, it's a really really great ride, and I love it a lot. And I also remember it back when I was way younger, before they did the remodel, when
Mhm.
the CGI in it was really shitty, and it was great.
Yeah, my times riding it would have been post remodel. Mine would have been in maybe 2013, 2014.
And I'm more of a theme park person than Alex is, but I'm not one of those freaks or weirdos that I'm not like a Disney adult who's like it's my home or whatever. I'm
My
not.
aunt
I
is one of
swear to
those
God, I'm
people,
not one of
yeah.
those people. Uh, but I have I guess a bit more knowledge of theme park related stuff than Alex would. And speaking of Alex, do you want to take us through the plot question mark of this ride? I guess we could start in the intro, the line before you even start the
Yeah,
ride.
absolutely. That's how I have it set up, actually, yeah. So in standard theme park ride procedure, the queue line is themed to everything. It's
Yes.
a Daily Bugle building,
Oh yeah.
which takes you from the greater Marvel superhero island at Islands of Adventure into the ride proper. There's video footage on the walls and little TVs that guests are shown footage of the company's good reputation, touting a new high-tech news gathering vehicle, the Scoop, which is the ride vehicle Lex previously described. Silver and blue, roundish thing that you sit in. After walking through the
Sorry. One thing I love about this queue is that it's in the Daily Bugle offices, and they haven't really changed it all that much before they remodeled it. They didn't change it before a whole lot, so it's like in these like garish like purple and green colors. It looks like
Mhm.
it's not. They take a lot of influence, especially from the '90s cartoon.
Oh yeah, it's all over the place here.
Yeah, it's like the same sort of animation style. There's a big like Mark Bagley, I think it's Mark Bagley or somebody like that.
It is.
Spider-Man out of the front of the ride. It is, and all of Marvel Superhero Island is incredibly garish because it was all designed back in the '90s. when that was sort of the style du jour of Marvel. It's a lot, and you can tell that when they did the remaster, when they did the remodel, and they changed the graphics of the video, they like muted the colors, and instead Doc Ock, instead of having his like green and yellow thing, he has a trench coat over it, like the Molina thing. Uh, but I just
Rough.
love how they kept the queue as 90s and garish as it was before.
It just fits the spirit of the ride.
Yeah. It's an artifact of a different time, but it's still really fun.
Yeah, so much so that you should experience it before they like go oh and change it like tomorrow.
I mean,
um,
hey, because the with if you don't know, here's some theme park trivia for you. Uh Obviously Disney is the one who owns the rights to Marvel in general. Uh but because Universal bought the rights to Marvel theme parks back in the 90s, they have precedent in that area. And specifically, the contract that they have specifies that they can only use Marvel characters in theme parks east of the Mississippi River. So that's why over in Disneyland in California, they have their big Avengers campus with the newest Spider-Man ride that I haven't been on. I think it's like the Web something or other. It's got Tom Holland in it. It's
Web
based on the
slingers
movies.
or something.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's their new fancy Disney ride. But over in Universal, they still have this old janky '90s ride.
And we fucking
Because
love
and we love it. Yeah, don't we love it, people?
it.
Because Universal has the rights for it over here still.
Well, as you walk through the empty Bugle office, guests are treated to a quote unquote live video feed of news coverage. 5 supervillains, not 6, but 5 supervillains, being led by Doc
Finally,
Ock, have lain siege to the city using an experimental anti-gravity cannon that Doc Ock has created. The Sinister Syndicate steals the Statue of Liberty and threatens to destroy it if the city doesn't surrender it to them. As guests continue through the Bugle offices, it becomes apparent that the reporters have fled, leaving editor in chief J. Jonah Jameson no choice but to send the guests to cover the story using the Bugle's new scoop vehicle, which is where the actual proper ride begins as you begin moving in the scoop. Uh, JJ says over the walkie-talkie, there's like an overhead audio of him like talking to your walkie-talkie, that crime reports are coming in from all over the city. Uh, he then becomes outraged when he sees the spider signal in full display, moving across a brick wall in a fun little, display moment there. You
oh
see a little
yeah.
shadow of Spider-Man like swinging away on the web too. It's really nicely animated.
So yeah,
Uh,
the way that this ride works is essentially there's little sort of sets that are set up with like actual props and lights and things, and
mhm.
those are like sort of your transition areas that you move through in between the big parts where the scoop stops. And you watch a little 3D movie of Spider-Man swinging around or whatever. So if there's not like any animatronics or anything of Spider-Man, it's just these still life background sets that you move in between.
It's all very impressive and all very the art style is very unified
Yeah, it's
between
pretty
what you're
seamless.
seeing in the video and then what you're seeing physically as you transition from room to room. It is very seamless. The whatever they were intending is pulled off to good effect.
Yeah.
Uh Jameson notes that trouble can't be far if Spider-Man is near. But trouble means headlines, so we're wished good luck. You don your night vision goggles, the big clunky fun 3D glasses, and the scoop leaves to the loading docks of Manhattan in a back alley, where Spider-Man does. Sorry, I lost track of myself here. Um, in a back alley, you encounter Spider-Man, and he warns you that he is in for the most dangerous night of his life, and warns the crew that he has come across here to be careful. This is where the synchronized effect stuff kicks in. That's used to simulate Spider-Man like jumping on the scoop. It like vibrates, moves around. You nearly get hit by a trash truck, being driven by a Stan Lee cameo at a point
Yup.
before you are taken to a warehouse where the Sinister Syndicate are holding the Statue of Liberty hostage. Electro is the one to spot you and attempts to shock you with a giant sparking wire. Uh, the scoop absorbs the electricity and vibrates and shakes around and then knocks Electro backwards, flings him away. You pivot away, and Scream, the symbiote, attempts to shred you with her big, scary, giant claws as Doc Ock holds her back and flings her out of the way before firing his anti-gravity cannon at the scoop. You're pushed backwards, and you see a big Statue of Liberty, like physical prop head in front of you, like bathed in big glowing green light. It's all very, again, on theme. It works.
Yeah.
Before your transition to the next set room, which is the you spin around for a while before you're taken to the sewer, where Spider-Man is waiting and briefly exchanges some dialogue with you, before Hydro Man appears behind him and slams a pipe into the scoop while Spider-Man attacks him.
And
Uh,
the ride sprays water all over you.
yeah, nice stinky recycled water for the ride. Uh,
So many waterborne diseases in there. You get cholera.
get vaccinated. Spidey Signals is a pro-vax podcast.
This is true.
Following this, Doc Ock busts through a brick wall and attempts to grab the scoop's front bumper, preparing to attack with a flamethrower claw that he just has.
Yeah,
Are they implying he has like a reserve of propane in his body?
who knows? That one of the claws comes up and fucking like shoots fire at you. And you know when you're a kid, you think that theme park rides are real. So when I was like a little kid, I was always scared that like I was actually going to get burned if I sat too close. Like, so I never sat at the front of the ride.
Oh,
So
that's
I always
great.
sat like in the middle or the back because I didn't want to get burned by Dr. Octopus.
It's a thing that's going to follow you to this day. You're not going to sit too close to the front of the screen at No Way Home because you don't want to get burned by Doctor Octopus.
Who wants to sit at the front row of a movie theater? You got to like break your neck staring up at the screen.
I did once actually, and it did suck. Yeah. Um, the bumper of the scoop breaks loose, causing Doc Ock to stumble backwards, while you also plummet backwards towards the river, where the Hobgoblin is there by the is it the Brooklyn Bridge? Is that where we are? It's the big bridge.
Brooklyn or George Washington Bridge. It's a bridge.
It's the New York Bridge.
Yeah, the bridge.
Where the Hobgoblin does a little rhyme and then tries to, guess what, throw pumpkin bombs at you.
It's the same bridge where the Green Goblin held those little kids hostage in Raimi 1.
Choose.
Suffer the little children.
Spider-Man does the Spider-Man thing and catches the pumpkin bomb, but it gets all up in your face and a great little 3D effect because, of course,
Probably my favorite effect in the whole thing is when the pumpkin bomb flies at you and then Spider-Man catches it and throws it away.
I mean, it just writes itself for a 3D
Oh yeah,
ride.
it's a very simple concept of 3D Spider-Man ride, but it makes a lot of sense.
As you're transitioning into the next room, you look up and to the right, and there's a little like exploded like exit wound kind of part of the building where like the follow through path of the pumpkin bomb that's being lobbed at you would have gone, and there's a flame jet that comes out of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a nice little physical effect, and it's probably the one I like the most.
It sells the idea of what you're watching on the screen being really real in front of you.
Right, more than just a shake and an orange light would. It's a lot of fun. The scoop then moves to the streets, where Spider-Man is fighting Doc Ock. In the ride's climax here, Doc Ock lifts the scoop up to a simulated height of 400 feet using the anti-gravity cannon. It's actually a really fun effect how that works. There's like sliding panels that move up and down to simulate like the skyline moving as you move.
It took me forever to fucking figure out how that worked. Because I was like, how did they move it?
In actuality, the thing you're in only moves 10 inches off the ground, which is fucking insane to me.
Wow, only 10
Uh,
because the way that they
what I
do
read and
the
watched, I watched a lot of like theme park type like dissection videos on how the tech in this works. If I got that right, it's only 10 inches off the ground. Yeah,
yeah, because when they do the actual like drop from 400 feet and Spider-Man catches you in his web right afterwards, they make that sensation. You know, they pull it off really really well.
absolutely. Actually, I integrated it into my description here. It's a number of synchronized movable building sets, lighting cues, simulator movements, projections, and wind effects. All together create that 400-foot, rise and then fall.
Yeah.
Um, Spider-Man attempts to get the scoop down from the height, but is attacked by all the supervillains at once. They don't spend a lot of time showing you like the nitty-gritty of him fighting them, but he does make his way through them, but not before Doc Ock disengages the anti-gravity device, sending the scoop down before it bounces off a rooftop into a simulated free fall. Until at the very end of it, as you're rushing down, you're rescued by a Spider-Man web, of course, right above a manhole cover that says "Not an exit." I've always thought that was funny. Another brief Stan Lee cameo. That's in the synopsis I cobbled together here, but I didn't quite catch where this one was. I know he's the announcer voice at the end, but I didn't see where this one's talking about. But supposedly, um, Spider-Man has captured all the supervillains, webbed them up in a nice little cocoon dangling from the ceiling. Doc Ock tries to smack him around one last time, but he gets webbed back into place. And as the vehicle pulls into the unload station, Spider Man thanks the guests for their help and sends them back to the Daily Bugle, where he makes a joke about rigging the anti gravity cannon to lift Jameson to the ceiling. You get a great little modern electric guitar rendition of the classic Spider Man theme song, and
Oh yeah.
Stan Lee tells you how to get out of your ride without causing a lawsuit.
Don't fuck it up.
Don't break your leg, kiddo.
Keep your hands in the fucking vehicle, or else
If
you don't want to get sued.
your parents can't afford a lawyer to beat these people.
You're gonna be fucked.
And that's the ride.
All right. Like I said, this episode's not going to be terribly long because there's not a whole lot to talk about.
It's nice to have a breather episode with all the staggering amount of stuff we've covered in just the first half of our show this season.
Yeah, and this is episode 10 of the podcast. So that this mean of this as of this episode, we are 2/3 of the way through this final season. It doesn't
I,
really feel like that, mostly because we spent 4 episodes talking about one TV show.
it was a hell of a good TV show, though.
Oh yeah, but we're here at the 2/3 point. Before we get into the fun facts, Alex,
Yes.
I guess we can sort of reflect on where we are and what we've got next.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, what have you enjoyed the most talking about this so far?
Oh, that's a really tough call because I've enjoyed all of it in a lot of different ways. Um, Comics wise, I think Spider-Man Blue is gonna stay with me a lot longer, like, in my head than Kraven's Last Hunt. Kraven's Last Hunt was a fun little Halloween read, but I still find myself, like, thinking about Spider-Man Blue once in a while, which
And
I'm
Blue's just
really
really
happy
fucking good, and I'm glad we were able to
really,
kick off the season with that.
really happy to have acquainted myself with it finally. Uh, Clone Saga, not so much. Um, Past that, I like we've said, I am really happy to have finally not just dipped my toes, but made myself a certified spectacular Spider-Man guy. I gotta say, maybe I'm still coming down from the high of the last like 2 weeks of watching it, but I really have a soft spot for Toei Spider-Man now. So much that like I've said last week, I do think I'm intending to finish it. Uh, it's been like we've said a lot. This season is about the wackier nooks and crannies of the content that exists in X amount of years of publishing and television and film, etc. I'm really happy that we've done this so far, and it's yielded a lot of results, both good and bad so far. I I know I already said briefly some stuff about Clone Saga, but I am so happy that I spared you some of the worst of that shit.
Yeah, and we've still got one more day to talk about
Oh yeah,
in the future, which is
one
going to
more
be a
episode,
lot.
one more half episode of self-flagellation, because we're also going to talk about Back in Black.
Oh yeah. Uh yeah, I mean the as of the stuff we've talked about so far, I think my favorite was Craven's Last Hunt just cuz I loved having Jackson on so much. He
Oh,
was
that was a lot of
such
fun. Yeah,
it's so great to have because I only met Jackson earlier this year, and it's just so great to meet somebody that you just immediately connect to with like that.
that's
And
great.
just it was a lot of fun bringing him on. And as of what we got left, which if you don't know, we've got left Spider-Man the new animated series, the MTV CGI cartoon, which we're gonna have to fucking cram for that, and because in our spectacular episodes we talked about I think 5 or 6 episodes an episode, but
Hmm.
here we got to talk about all 13 of the one season, so we got to
Oh
fucking
yeah,
cram.
yeah. I'm gonna
uh
my synopses might be a little more succinct than usual. I'm not just gonna like type up a 2 sentence thing for each one, but like I'm not gonna like recap in depth all of it. We'll talk about the broad strokes, standout. We'll treat it like normal, but we don't want to have like a 3 or 4 hour episode about this shit, right?
yeah, I mean, plus these next few weeks I've got finals and stuff, so it's going to
Oh
be a
yeah,
lot of stuff going on at the same time.
I'd
So
say it's probably more or less normal length. I just won't go overboard with details about the episodes.
yeah, maybe episodes 12 and 13, which are Back in Black One More Day and Turn Off the Dark, those might be a little bit delayed. Those are extenuating circumstances that are really beyond my control.
Of course.
But it is what it is. After that, we've got Back in Black and One More Day. And then Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark with another guest, my good friend Sir B. He's oh my god. I say this every time we talk about this episode. He's got something cooked up that I think is certifiably insane.
I cannot wait.
He's still working on it. He's got a couple weeks left to do it, but I'm really excited to just unleash this upon the earth. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but it's going to be something. And then after that, we've got the Master Planner Saga, which, as we said, is coming out the same day as No Way Home. And then we have a week to gather ourselves to actually watch the movie, take our notes, and do our thing. And then our final episode of the season, Spider-Man No Way Home, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Your Christmas gift is our Spider-Man No Way Home episode, which is going to be a
Enjoy.
lot of fun.
You don't get a receipt with it.
Alex, do you want to talk about the fun facts for this theme park ride?
I sure do. First and foremost, as far as the cast goes, Roger Bumpass, who we already mentioned, and Bill Fagerbakke are both alumni of SpongeBob SquarePants. They are respectively Squidward and Patrick.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
it's really interesting to see that. I think yeah, Bill Fagerbakke especially has a very distinct voice.
Even when you see him in like actual roles, you can hear it. That's him.
Yeah, it's basically just his regular speaking voice.
hmm when the attraction opened at its Universal Studios Japan location, it was so popular that it caused park attendance to shoot up by 1.1 million people in less than a year. Uh,
Jesus.
Japan loves Spider-Man.
And I mean, as we talked about last week, with good reason.
When the ride first opened, the queue line had several news broadcast videos showing the Sinister Syndicate attacking the city by burning down buildings, attacking news reporters, and even making an attempt on the mayor's life. After 9/11, these clips were removed, which unfortunately caused the ride to lose a lot of its story development. And it wasn't until after 2009 that these clips were finally restored back into the running.
Yeah, I mean, obviously 9/11 ended up changing a lot of things. We talked about it even before on the Raimi 1 episode with that incredible teaser trailer that got removed because of the Twin Towers being in it.
Yeah, what could have been?
What could have been?
Universal creative members cited Back to the Future, the ride, and Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time as being their inspiration for the ride, as they always wanted to imagine what it would be like if both attractions were combined together. which is a dangerous line of thinking, but it proved results.
I actually never
Uh,
went to either of those rides before they got removed from the theme park.
yeah, I only, like I said, I had only been to the theme park after about 2012, 2013. So by the time I went there, Back to the Future had become the Simpsons ride, which is what it is. For a
I don't
brief,
remember what T2 has been replaced with. I think it has been replaced, but I don't
I
know
want to say
where.
it's Transformers now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Despite the Q line footage using almost the exact same animation style and character design as the '90s animated series, none of the voice actors reprised their roles for the ride.
Just a big fuck you to them.
It worked, you know.
Yeah,
No royalties. Early designs for the ride showed it not even being a Spider-Man ride, but a Superman ride, with the Q line going through the Daily Planet instead of the Daily Bugle, because a set is a set. This was because the initial plans for the park had it being a DC hero-themed venture as opposed to Marvel, but after negotiations between Universal and Warner Brothers fell through, Marvel was ultimately chosen, and the planned 3D ride became a Spider-Man focused venture.
yeah,
Uh,
and I mean,
uh,
I think all of DC's theme park stuff, it's all owned by like Six Flags, I think now, which is like the low rent. Uh, it's like not even in the same tier as like Universal or Disney. It's like way below that.
yeah, I've never been to one.
It's very funny.
Earlier drafts of the ride showed different villains being used than what we got in the final cut, such as the Lizard, Venom, the Green Goblin, and Mysterio, as well as the ride vehicles being
Man,
more generic looking cars. Personally, I think that roster sounds a lot better than what we ended up with.
it would have been fucking killer if they had Mysterio in there. Imagine that.
Yeah, and
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 it is kind of
Scream
weird that
over.
they had Scream over Venom. It's a weird choice.
Yeah, especially for like brand recognition, and Hobgoblin over Green Goblin too, and '99 pre-movie. So I don't know. I don't know. Uh, the last thing I have here is that the ride won today, Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Award for Best Dark Ride for 12 years straight, from 1999 to 2010, and was only ousted by Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, another Universal outing, which is the one I talked about earlier, actually, the year after. So yeah, that's 12 years of dominating the market. Don't even fucking try it, because this ride from '99 is way better.
Oh yeah, it's a fucking great ride, and you know, I hope they keep it around and barely change it as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
We have to retain it. That whole Marvel Superhero Island is such a weird, because if you go to that section of the park, all the costumes look like really weird, and
Hmm.
like vaguely cheap, like Party City costumes. It's
Absolutely.
especially compared to like, you know, the super professional stuff they got over at Disney, where they look essentially like almost identical to what the actual movie costumes look like. It's it's a lot. It's got that sort of a cheap charm. It's like watching an old B movie where you can see all the seams on the costumes. It's like,
Almost
yeah,
almost desperately trying to stay relevant, but in a pathetically fun way.
exactly. There is also secretly one other Spider-Man ride that's not the Disneyland one or this one.
Do
It is
tell.
called Spider-Man: The Ultimate Ride. It doesn't exist anymore. It was located at the Marvel Superheroes Adventure City indoor theme park. That was in, of all places, Niagara Falls.
What the fuck? Okay, first of all, that's that's the longest name I've ever heard ever. And secondly, what?
Okay, so there's a YouTube video about it. I'll put in the link in the description. If you want to watch it, it's good. Uh, Obviously, Niagara Falls is a huge tourist destination because, you know, it's a big place of natural beauty. So of course, what do people do when they see a place of natural beauty? Let's set up a bunch of chintzy theme parks and hotels right by it so people can stay there.
Yeah.
And one of them was an indoor theme park themed around Marvel superheroes. There were like X-Men bumper cars, like a little.
That's what they're known
It,
for.
Exactly. X-Men bumper cars. They got fucking. There was an Incredible Hulk thing. But yeah, they had a
It's got a
Spider-Man
thing
the
where they
Ultimate
put the
Ride.
Incredible Hulk in a barrel and send him over the falls.
Exactly. And you'll never guess what the ride actually is. It's a fucking light gun ride. You shoot a little laser gun at little targets. And you ride
Like
around
Spider-Man does.
like Spider-Man does. I think they're like themed after like web shooters, but they're little laser guns. You shoot them at targets. You have to help Spider-Man save the city from a bunch of villains. It's obviously built incredibly on the cheap, like even
Yeah,
cheaper than what this was.
I'm absolutely gonna do some research on that. That sounds great.
It is so strange. It's such a weird thing. But now that we've talked about that, I guess we can talk about our sort of overall thoughts on this ride. Alex, what's your general opinion on the amazing adventures of Spider-Man?
My general opinion is a strongly positive one. I have only a handful of times to speak of having ridden this, but as opposed to a lot of the majority of the kind of ride it is, I'm more fond of it than those. Even outside of it being a Spider-Man property type thing, with the simulated drop and everything, it's really fun. It's really memorable. I remember more about it than I do its successor, the Harry Potter ride, where just about the only thing I remember is the giant spider that spits at you because it got like in all of our mouths and we were mad about it. But with that said, I'm a big fan of the ride. Should I find myself in the area again, I'm definitely gonna ride it at least once. It's a great representation of the character for as brief a time you're on there. You get a lot of classic JJJ beats. Good representation, I guess, of the villains that are there, if not nothing terribly memorable. Uh, Overwhelmingly positive is my answer. It's just a good, succinct, brief little thing, and it's not cripplingly embarrassing, and not a black mark on the legacy like so many other attempted projects have been. It's I think if anything, time has proven that people like it, love it, maybe even.
Yeah, it's a really really great ride. I absolutely agree with you. It's easily the best ride in Universal Studios, other than maybe the Hulk roller coaster.
That's also a
Uh,
lot of fun.
Universal Studios is, as somebody who doesn't like Harry Potter really at all. Universal Studios is kind of like super lame in comparison. Obviously, they've gotten a lot better with building a natural world in a theme park. But something about like the incredibly like chintzy and built on the cheap Islands of Adventure is really really like the 70s Spider-Man movie with Nicholas Hammond. There's something fascinating about it to me because it's so weird and not something you'd really expect. I like I said, I went in this ride a lot as a kid. I love it so much. Never change. Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. Never change.
Please, just upscale.
Just make it 4K. I don't care. Never change. Change back to the old models, the shitty ones. I don't care. Make it that. Yeah, make it back to that. Go back to the old Spider-Man costume where it looked even worse, and all your actors had huge bulges.
That's what matters.
Go back to that. That's what I come to Island of Adventure to see Spider-Man's huge cock.
Well, until next time.
Yeah, that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got a question or a comment that you want us to read on next week's episode, be sure to send it to us at our email address, spideysignalspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can shoot us a DM on our Twitter at SpideySignals. Next week, we are talking about the Spider-Man, the new animated series, the CGI MTV cartoon with Neil Patrick Harris as Spider-Man. It's something.
Yay.
Yay!
Maybe I'll love it. Who
Uh,
knows?
friend of the show and former guest Sperm Phoenix, who's now just Phoenix is online. Phoenix is very excited to hear about this strange television program. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. I've never seen it before. I've only seen like little tiny clips of it. It's gonna be appearing into another world of what could have been, I guess.
I think I caught exactly maybe 2 minutes of it on TV once when I was a kid, and I was like, "This sucks," and just went to something else. So this we'll find out.
But yeah, until then, stay responsible. Bye.
Keep your arms and legs inside at all times.
Or we're gonna sue you.